All right, good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Did you guys get enough sleep? I hope so. All right, I'm going to kick off this morning with an IQ test just to wake you up. Is that all right? Let me ask you a question. How many of you believe, and I would like an honest answer, that you have a above average or a high IQ? Raise your hand. Above average or high IQ? 4 people. So the rest of you are... Well, lucky for you, the IQ test today is not your intelligence quotient. I'm actually going to test your irritation quotient, okay? How easily you get irritated, okay? So first question. When driving... Oh, that knocks out the youth. Okay, you don't drive. When driving, how often do you use your horn? 1, rarely, if ever. 2, as needed, at least once a day. And 3, it is the most used part of my car. Huh? If it's 1, raise your hand. 1? Oh, okay, very patient people. How about 2? I think I belong in 2, right here. How about 3? It is the most used part. Oh, all right, Johnny. All right, if you were like if you're in Asia, like 3 would be the majority answer, right? Okay. All right, second question. At a restaurant, how often do you complain about your food? 1, never. 2, only if it's cold or has bugs in it. Or 3, regularly, and I refuse to tip. 1, never? Okay. How about 2? Some? Okay, that's like half. And then 3, regularly? Yeah, okay. All right, very nice. All right, last question. While waiting at the express checkout line at the supermarket, I 1, scroll through my phone smiling. 2, count to see if anyone has more than 12 items. Or 3, threaten anyone who looks as if they're going to use coupons. All right, 1, you scroll your phone. Yeah. Okay, 2, you actually count. You actually count the items of the person in front of you. Wow, okay. Be careful. And then 3, it's like when people whip out the coupons, you're like, what is going on? And then take out coins, like coupons and coins, right? And you're like, is there another line around here? Okay, all right. So I just wanted to get a sense of your IQ, all right, your temper, to see how often you get yourself into a conflict situation. And so the message this morning is going to be titled, Community is Worth Fighting For. Community is worth fighting for. Jesus' 7 steps to resolving conflict. Okay, and if you hang out with me long enough or have known me for a while, then you probably will find this thing out about me, that I don't like to deal with conflict very much. Okay, I deal with it when I have to, but I don't like to deal with it on a personal level. Okay, I tend to avoid it. That is my natural tendency. And I would much rather just kind of get along with everyone and have a good time and just avoid controversial subjects at all costs, And the only time I like conflict, there is one type of time that I like conflict, and that's when I'm watching it on TV or in a movie, okay? Without conflict, it's not much of a show, right? When you watch something, there has to be a crisis, a problem, and then the heroes sweep in to solve the crisis, right? So I remember as a kid, when I was a kid, my parents would fight a lot. We're in the restaurant business as a family, and if you are in that type of business, when the whole family is involved, you know how much conflict there can be, okay? And when they would fight a lot, I would get scared, and I would kind of hide under my blanket, and I pretend that nothing is happening, that they're not actually fighting. And as a child, that's how I dealt with conflict. Okay, and that was my coping mechanism. I just kind of pretended that it didn't happen, and hopefully things will get back to normal in a few days. And for the most of the time, it does. My parents would kind of resolve their issues, and things would get back to normal until the week following, and the cycle would repeat again and again. And so as a kid, I had to have my own coping mechanisms to deal with conflict at home. And I realized that I bring a lot of this coping mechanism into adulthood. And so I would avoid conflict sometimes in my job, sometimes in my marriage, sometimes in my dealing with my kids, sometimes even in ministry here in the EM. And I would only deal with it only when I had no other choice. Okay, but it's because it is emotionally, it's draining for me, okay? I have to take a long nap afterwards whenever I deal with conflict. I'm like, okay, I need to take a nap, okay? And I realize I kind of follow after my mom. Like, when my mom gets into a conflict, she'll just go and take a nap. And I think I'm a lot like my mom in that sense, all right? Or I go and watch TV with some conflict and make myself feel better, okay? So today, a lot of the content is taken from John Ortberg's book. I don't know if you guys know that author, very popular author. I really like his materials. And his book is called Everybody's Normal Until You Get to Know Them. And that's very true, right? I mean, especially the person that's sitting next to you. You thought they were normal, so you married them or became their friend. And then on the second day, you found out, oh, they're not so normal after all, right? Okay. Well, this book helped me a lot, so I want to share that with you. Our church here is our community, right? God designed us, designed human beings, designed families to be in community. And we thrive and we enjoy life, and actually we live a lot longer if we are a part of a thriving community. And our church community is consisted of people, imperfect people. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, we are actually all sinners who are learning and in a process to love God. And it is God's will, it is God's design to put us into a community so we can learn from one another, so we can teach each other, so that we can love each other, we can help each other, and forgive one another. You know, you realize when God gave his commandments, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. You can't love your neighbor if you're in isolation. You can't love your neighbor if you're playing games for 12 hours a day, right? And so the author, Ortberg, he uses this porcupine as an analogy for us human beings. Oh, which one's a porcupine? This one, okay? This one's a porcupine with lots of needles, and this panther or cheetah is thinking about, how can I eat this guy? It's going to be a hard meal, okay? Because that's the needles is their way of self-protection. It's their self-defense. And so, as people, we can be like the porcupine. We carry all these needles with us as a form of self-defense to protect ourselves when others come and try to attack us. And if provoked, we can poke each other really bad, like this canine right here that tried to bite a porcupine. You see what happened? You see all these needles around his mouth? That's the power of a porcupine, guys. All right, a porcupine is powerful, little but packed with attacking power. He's got over 200 needles on his mouth right now, okay? And so we don't want to be provoked because we're like porcupines. Yet these porcupines have their way of getting along with other porcupines, okay? They have their way of making family together and being a porcupine family together. And if you see a cartoon rendering of a porcupine, usually they're very cute and adorable, okay? So, a community. How does a community grow? Well, the author here says communities need tension if they are to grow and deepen. Tension comes from conflicts. A tension or difficulty can signal the approach of a new grace of God, but it has to be looked at wisely and humanly. Okay. Communities such as ours, we need tension if it is to grow and deepen. If we just come here and have small talk all day long and we go home, our community, like our relationship with each other, is going to be pretty superficial, right? And so in a way, talking about tension, we are kind of like this rubber band, all right? In order to advance in life, in order to move forward with progress, we need to be stretched like the rubber band. So the further we stretch back, the further the rubber band's going to fly off. But if we're never stretched to feel uncomfortable, then we'll never grow. Think about the moments in your life where you have grown the most. I bet it's not in those comfortable situations. I bet the most growth moments, the best growth moments in your life are the moments where you were put in a tough position, where you had to be stretched, where you had to be put in tension, and somehow you came through. And those are your most teachable, most growing moments of your life. Okay. If you go to a gym and you work with weights, you know that in order for you to get stronger, you have to have tension. You have to have resistance. If all day long you work, okay, I'm talking to guys right now, right? If you're a guy and you work with 5-pound dumbbells all day long, you're not going to have any gains. All right? If 25 pounds is easy for you, if you worked with 25 pounds and after a few months it's getting easy for you, you have to go up in weight. You have to go to 30-pound or 40-pound dumbbells purposely to give your muscle discomfort, to make it fight for muscle gain. And as people who want personal growth, we must be willing to get out of our comfort zone, be willing to lift heavy things in order for our muscles to grow. Our physical muscles, our mental muscles, our relational muscles, our conflict resolution muscles, if you will. Okay. And then there was this one research that was asked of children, this question. And they asked, how do you wish your mom was different? How do you wish your mom was different? Can you guess what the number one answer was? It was, I wish my mom didn't yell at me so much. That was the number one answer. And maybe if you're a young person right here, and if you were to think about that question, would this be your answer? I wish my mom didn't yell at me so much. Okay, that was 98% answer of all those who responded. 98%. Okay. The number one answer. Conflict in the home it's an everyday reality. I know it. Okay. Conflict arises when parents are disciplining their children, and that happens to be every day, right? And when spouses, when they disagree with each other on various issues, or when the boss lashes out on his workers for low performance, conflict will happen whether we like it or not. But being able to resolve that conflict is the key to our success in this life. But oftentimes we lack the skills, oftentimes we lack the maturity to resolve conflict, and that's why there's so much trouble in the home, so much trouble in the workplace. And it's a big problem that needs a real solution that works. And so today we turn to Jesus, the ultimate peacemaker, the ultimate reconciler. And his way of resolving conflict is much better than the way that we try to do it. And his way is the best way. And so we look at Matthew 18:15. And in it he says, if your brother or sister sins against you, go privately and show them their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. And by the way, everybody should have a handout. And if you don't have a pen, just kind of raise your hand, and our ushers will grab you a pen for you to fill out the handout so that you can retain the information a lot better, okay? So Jesus taught us 7 steps to resolve conflict. Okay, 7 steps. And the first step is to acknowledge conflict. To acknowledge conflict. Here, Jesus said, if there is a conflict, might as well be when, okay? If and when there is conflict, because you're never going to be able to live a conflict-free life unless you're a hermit that lives in a cave. But even then, you might get into some conflict with some wild animals, okay? So when there is a conflict, we have to acknowledge it. To be alive means that there will be conflict because people fight. People fight all the time. Have you ever seen a family that doesn't fight? Like in your own family, when was the last time you guys fought with an argument? If it was in the last 30 days, would you raise your hand? Yeah. Oh, you don't want to raise your hand when your parents sitting next to you, right? Yeah, I know how that is, right? But the chances are we've had a conflict within our family the last 30 days, okay? And you probably don't know a family that doesn't have arguments. Have you ever been in a church where there's no conflict? If you've never seen it, you're probably just a visitor. If you get into the meetings, you'll know that there's conflict in all churches. There's not a church that does not have conflict. Okay, I've never seen one. They all fight. It's okay. It's a part of life. It's a part of our growing process. And you know, a lot of TV shows that deal with family conflict are popular because people relate to those shows. Can you think of some shows in your mind, like shows that deal with family situations that have a lot of conflict? Anyone? Like The Simpsons? Like Malcolm in the Middle, if you grew up in the early 2000s? Okay? All right, they all deal with like dysfunctional families, sitcoms, right, or Seinfeld, or is that type of show. And one of my favorite shows right now is This Is Us. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. You know, how many of you guys actually watch This Is Us? You know, like it's a real tearjerker. You know, and it deals with family tragedy, and it results in a lot of conflict in the family. But they find ways, like the dad, Jack, he finds ways to resolve those conflicts in an amazing way. And he's like my favorite dad like on TV, because I'm like, man, I want to be just like him. You know, such an amazing dad. Well, some people, some families appear not to have any open conflict, but that's only because they have a very passive personality. Okay, that doesn't mean that there's no conflict. It just means that they use a very passive form to show the conflict. All right, it's a passive-aggressive form of conflict where we don't talk about the issues directly, but we show it by acting irritated by everything else. Okay, has that ever happened to you? You know, just a very Chinese, Asian way of passive aggressiveness. Okay, and Jesus says it's good to acknowledge that there is conflict. Okay, don't say that there's no conflict and then act really irritated by everything. Step number 2, all right? Jesus says, if there's a conflict, you have to do something about it, all right? So I must own responsibility. I must own responsibility. Jesus says, you have to do something about it. He calls on everyone who will listen to own the task of seeking reconciliation. Don't expect that other people will resolve the conflict for you, because Jesus says that you must initiate that conversation. Even though you might be afraid to, even though you might be really nervous to initiate, but God wants to give you courage and strength so that you can initiate those important conversations. And you might say, hey, you know what? It's not fair. It's not fair that I have to be the one to take the first step. He started it. She started it. They have to come and talk to me. I shouldn't have to go and talk to them. They should apologize to me first. But Jesus is saying it doesn't matter who started it. You see, when you're angry, often it contains this element of self-righteousness that causes us to blame others. Because most of the time when there's a conflict, we think we're right. 90% of the time, we think we are in the right and they are in the wrong. And that's why we get so angry. And so there's this element of self-righteousness. I'm right, you're wrong. And therefore, I'm going to blame you for that situation. And therefore, the responsibility is on you, not on me. And so there's this avoidance of responsibility that, hey, it's not my fault. Okay. And so, again, whether it's your fault or not, Jesus puts the burden on you to take action. Why? Because you claim to be a follower of Christ. If you're not a Christian, if you don't believe in Jesus, then fine, you don't have to listen to that. But because you do, and you claim to follow him, then yes, you do need to do what Jesus says. Okay. Here's a good quote by Ortberg. He says, because people who value community are people who own responsibility to deal with relational breakdowns. I think that's a great quote. What he's saying is, because this is my community, this is my family, this is my church family. All of these are a gift from God, given by God for our enjoyment and our blessing. So it is my job, my responsibility to make this community work at whatever the cost. We don't give up on our family. This is our value. We make things right when there's something wrong. Okay. Step number 3. Jesus says, you go. If there's a conflict, you go. You take action. So approach. Don't avoid the person you are in conflict with. You have to go. Don't avoid. Okay? Because when you avoid, you let resentment grow in your heart and in your mind. So in this situation, Jesus is saying, don't be passive. Don't wait for the other person to come to you. We see this ostrich. I don't know if ostriches really put their head in the sand. I've never seen it, but I guess it's a real thing. And when we avoid conflict, it's like putting our head in the sand, because avoidance kills community. When we avoid problems in our community, in a small group, in a fellowship, with their parents, with their kids, if you avoid community, what happens is, you don't have open conflict. You're not fighting openly, but eventually everybody ignores each other. Eventually nobody shows up to anything, and then the community just dies. Okay? And avoidance causes resentment to fester inside of you, because when you avoid the problems, what do you tend to do? You tend to replay the problem over and over in your head, don't you? I know I do. I replay it over and over. I'm like, scenario 1, this is how I respond to them. Scenario 2, this is what they should do. And it just keeps festering inside of you, okay? Some people, when they get angry, they learn to stuff the anger. You guys recognize this guy from that movie? What's that movie called? Inside Out, right? My kid likes it. Okay. Some people learn to stuff the anger and keep it all inside. And they avoid confrontation because they don't want to be angry. Okay? Because some people think, I should never experience anger. It means I'm a terrible person. And I think in the past, that was kind of like my mindset. Like, I want to avoid the situation because I don't want to get angry, because if I get angry, then I would be a bad person. But it's actually a good thing that we have the capacity to be angry. Okay? Here it says, anger is a physiological arousal. More adrenaline is secreted, more sugar is released, your heart beats faster, your blood pressure rises, your pupils open wide. Anger is a form of power. It is a signal that something needs your attention. It prepares you to act. And so it's saying anger, it's this physical thing, physical alarm that happens within your body. And it causes you to act. Well, in this case, to act wisely, to act properly, to take the proper action. Okay. And it says anger is like a smoke detector. It's very good to have one. When it buzzes, it signals that something needs to be fixed. Okay? So the capacity to be angry is like having a fire alarm installed in your living room. Do you need one? Yes, you do. When it goes off, is it bad? No, it's not bad. It signals that something is wrong. If it keeps beeping and beeping and beeping, is that bad? And you don't turn it off for 2 hours, 3 hours, 24 hours. Yeah, then it gets very irritating, right? Like when it beeps, you're supposed to do something about it, okay? Because the alarm can save your life. The smoke detector can save your life, potentially, all right? And you need to put out the fire. And I have a confession to make, and the core team knows about this. Yesterday, our core team was having our core camp training in here, okay? And in the morning time, we were in there cooking breakfast. We were cooking bacon and eggs. Everything smells so good. But the smoke from the cooking, it set off the fire alarm in the kitchen, all right? And it went full off. Like, I've heard it beep before, but I have never heard our fire alarm talk. Like, There is a fire. Everybody, get out of the building. Like, it started talking. I'm like, whoa, this is new. I've never experienced this before. I don't know how to turn this thing off. And so as they were trying to, clear the smoke inside, I went inside and I tried to read the direction. I'm like, how do I turn this thing off? And I had to call the fire department, try to, I'm like, oh, please don't send the firefighters. Don't send the firefighters. By the time I called them, they're like, sorry, we sent the firefighters, And while I was on my phone, the firefighter comes in. I'm like, sorry, false alarm. Nothing's happening. As you can see, we're having bacon and eggs, okay? And so they're like, oh, it's okay. Bye-bye. All right. Well, look at the bright side. Our fire alarm works very well. I would rather it go off than not go off in the case of a real fire. Then wouldn't that be bad? I'm like, oh, let's turn that thing off. It's so annoying. Like, let's turn it off forever. And then when there's a real fire, we don't even know about it. Then that would be bad, okay? It's good that you have the detector. It's good that you have the capacity to be angry, but it is not good to live with a smoke detector constantly making noise. It's not good to constantly be in that hot temper mode. Then there's something really wrong, okay? The Apostle Paul says, be angry. It's okay. Be alarmed. It's okay. But do not sin. When you're angry, don't sin. Don't go out of control. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Meaning what? Don't let your anger carry on longer than it has to. Take some time to cool off and then go and resolve the situation. Don't drag on for too long. Don't do it the next day, 2 days. Don't drag it out for a week, a month. That's what Paul is saying to us. Okay. You guys know the movie, Dumb and Dumber? How many of you have seen it? How many have you seen it multiple times? How many of you have seen it, both episode 1 and 2? Yeah, right here, And this is called the Jim Carrey effect, okay? Jim Carrey is like, oh, I'm so mad, I'm so frustrated. Okay? As you get madder and madder, you get dumber and dumber. That's the Jim Carrey effect. Because when you're mad, you can't make rational decisions. You can't make good decisions. Almost everything you do when you're super angry is wrong because you always come back to regret it. And you always have to go and apologize to somebody because you yelled at someone that didn't deserve it, right? In Proverbs, it says, people with a hot temper do foolish things. Wiser people remain calm. Okay. So even the Bible says when you're a hot temper, it's easy for us to do foolish things. So what should we do? You need to buy some time. You need to allow your body and your emotion to cool down. Remember, anger is this physical reaction in your mind and in your heart. Your adrenaline's pumping. So you need time to cool down so you could behave intentionally instead of going on autopilot and just like lash out on everybody. So for example, go for a walk. Just around the neighborhood, go for a long walk. Take 10 minutes, take half an hour, take an hour. Just let your emotions cool down. Or go to the gym, go pump some iron, right? Let your frustration come out in a healthy way. Or listen to some music, listen to some praise music. Listen to some music that calms you down. If you like piano, instrumental, violin, whatever it is that calms your heart. Okay? Don't listen to like death metal. That's just gonna like make you even more angry. All right? Listen to the right type of music. And one thing with anger is that, as we said, like when we feel angry, we feel that we are in the absolute right and justify our action to do wrong to other people. Like, because when we feel angry, we want to inflict pain on others, right? When your kid is so out of line, you just want to spank them, right? You want to inflict pain. You want to yell at the other person. So a very good thing for people to do when we're very angry is to just slow down and think. Think about what? Think that, you know what? I could be wrong on this. I could be wrong. In this issue that we're arguing, and I'm trying to win the argument, and I'm trying to inflict pain on the other person, you know what? I could be wrong. Okay? Is that hard to say? Is that a hard thing to say when you're angry? Can we practice that? Just with the person next to you. Just look at them straight in the eye and say, I could be wrong. Say it. Say it nice and loud. I could be wrong. I'm not hearing it. See, it's hard to even practice saying it. How can you ever say it in a real situation? I mean, this is just practice, guys. Go ahead. I could be wrong. Okay? See. Oh, I heard that. You're not saying you could be wrong. You're saying I could be wrong. Not you could be wrong. All right, this is just practice, and you see how hard it is even in practice? Okay. When we get angry, do we ever wonder why we get angry? Why am I angry? Why am I so angry at this? Sometimes we ask that, right? Like, I get so angry. And anger is not a primary emotion. It is virtually always the result of a mixture of other emotions, such as hurt, frustration, or fear. I know there are artists in here. There are 3 primary colors. What are they? Huh? Red, yellow, blue, right? Those are the primary colors. And you can mix them and get all the other colors from those 3 primary colors, right? If you want orange, you mix what? Yellow and red. If you want green, what do you mix? Blue and yellow, right? And those are secondary colors. And so here, the study have shown that anger is not a primary emotion. Anger is like a secondary emotion. Emotions such as hurt, frustration, and fear, these are the primary emotions. So as a result of that, you mix that together with other stuff, the result is anger. Okay. For example, a nice young man in here asks a girl out on a date, all right? The girl says, no, thank you. How come? Are you busy? No, I'm not busy. Even worse, the man gets angry, right? The young man gets angry. Oh, can't believe it. I can't believe she rejected me. I'm so angry. What are you really feeling? You're really feeling hurt. Oh, I'm so hurt by her rejection. Okay? Second scenario. Would you go out with me to a movie date? Oh, yes, I will. Okay, let's meet at 7. All right, I'll pick you up at 7 sharp. No problem. All right? At 6 o'clock, you want to storm out of the office already, right? And then your boss comes to you. Oh, by the way, get this pile of paper done. I want it before tonight. What? A last-minute project? Are you kidding me? I have a date at 7. All right, so you used up an hour and a half to finish up your project, and now you're on the road, and you hit heavy traffic, and it's not even moving, bumper to bumper. You're like on fire at this point, right? And then it clears up, and you step on it, and you're like, and then you get a speeding ticket. What? I was only 5 miles over, and you're giving me a speeding ticket? And by this time, you're super angry. You're on fire. Why? Why are you angry? Well, because you're frustrated. You're late for your date. Your one and only chance. It's gone. She already went home. All right? You blew it. Scenario number 3. You got this date. You're there at 7. You picked her up. She's happy. You guys have a nice meal. Conversation's going well. Your parents, both sides of your parents, they like each other. They like you guys. Man, things are going well. Wow, this is going somewhere, This is going somewhere. It's good. You're about to walk out, you're about to go home, like drop her off at home and say bye. And as you walk out, a group of men just drinking beer at the restaurant, whistles at your girl. What? How dare they? I'm so angry. I want to say something. But they're 4 guys, and they're twice my size, and they're kind of drunk. Do I say something? Oh, shoot. If I don't say something, she's going to think I'm chicken. I'm not standing up for her. If I say something, I get beat up. Oh, I'm so angry. Well, why are you angry? Because you're deathly afraid of your own life. You don't want to get beat up, so you're like, oh, forget it. Let's go. Let's not like get them in 计较, right? They're fools. Let's go. But in your heart, you're like, I wanted to say something, but I'm too afraid to, right? Anger. All 3 very possible scenarios to the young men in this room, so that was a free lesson for you, okay? Okay, no problem. Now, I turn it not to the young men, but to the parents, okay? Here's another situation that you might be in, all right? Okay, so your kids are watching are watching stuff on YouTube, just watching other kids play and review toys and stuff, and they can be on that thing for hours and hours. If you have kids, you know. And if you're like in junior high, you still remember those days where you watch people just play toys, right? And let's say that your kids are going wild, just playing with Legos in your living room, all right? And because they have nothing better to do during the summertime, so they're making a mess in the living room, and they decided to play with like Nerf guns and recreate like World War II in the living room, and it's just like a super mess, all right? Scenario number 1, the parent, you come home on Monday along with all the work piled up for the week, and you're irritated and you have negative thoughts, and you see your kid like doing this, and you're thinking, where's the mom? Where's the mom? How come my kid is so acting like a monkey? What's all this monkey business? It's so uncivilized. It's unacceptable. I'm angry because the room is a mess. Okay? This kid needs some discipline. This kid needs to be taught how to behave properly. All right? And that's this parent's reaction. All right? Just, my kid, this is not my kid. My kid would behave even better, you know, like, as my mom would say, you were born in a rock. You popped out a rock. 从石头生出来的. Because like you're misbehaved so badly, like your genes couldn't have come from me, you know? That's what she meant. I know for some of you, your parents probably said that to you too. Okay. Scenario number 2. This parent comes home on a Friday afternoon, right? Right here. So happy. So happy. You come home on Friday, TGIF, thank God it's Friday. All the work is finished. It's the long weekend. You're having happy thoughts. And you're looking at your kid and you're like, oh, my kid is full of energy. He's so vibrant. He's so creative in the way that he designed his defensive castle. You know, it's great that he's getting so much exercise. This is free entertainment right here. I don't have to bring him to Disneyland and waste like hundreds of dollars. You know, he's just so easy to please. Oh, this kid's amazing. That's my son. That's my son. I'm so proud of him. This is great, you know. And notice that in both of these scenarios, the situation is identical. Your kid is just going wild at home, all right? But you have 2 very opposite reactions to this. Why is that? Because it is your thought process that makes the difference, okay? It's your thought process, our thinking process. Are we thinking about positive things? Oh, long weekend, relax, all the work is done. Or negative things, all this work, I'm so irritated. I don't have enough energy or time. And my body hurts. Negative things, you take it out on your kids. So it's our thinking process. So the Bible says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Paul is a master at the thinking process. He knows human behavior. He knows that when we're thinking about the right things, we're going to be so much more joyful, have so much peace, treat people so much better. But if we're thinking about the wrong things, then everybody's irritating to us. I want to smack everybody. You're late, you're staying up late, I'm going to smack you. Right? You sleep at 4 o'clock, I'm going to smack you. Right? How many of you may have a road rage problem when you drive? One research team working on road rage taught drivers this cognitive strategy, okay? Anytime that they found themselves very angry, like you just got cut off and that person just sped through, you're like, what's your problem? You're going like 90 miles an hour. We're on a 55 zone. What's your problem? And you're just fired up. You want to do all sorts of foul things, So what do? As a coping mechanism, as a way to calm yourself down? Just calm down. Just think, you know what? Maybe their house is on fire. Maybe that's why they're driving so fast. Maybe their wife is having a pregnancy at, giving birth at the hospital. Maybe that's why they're driving so fast. And then you'll just kind of calm down. It's like, okay, I understand. Right? So try and put yourself in their shoe. And if it was an emergency, then you would calm down a lot better, okay? Step number 4. If there is a conflict, you go to the person. So, no third parties. Go directly to the other person involved, Jesus says. And naturally, that's the last thing that Asians want to do, right? We don't want to go and talk to a person directly. That's a very non-Asian thing to do. Because we tend to want to kind of step around. That's the Chinese way, right? Read between the lines, step around the problem. Right? That's the difference between Western and Eastern communication style. Okay? In America, if you're in a company, things are just said very directly. You did this wrong, 1, 2, 3. Now fix it like this, Or even in the family, I have a problem because of ABC. But with Asians, we tend to want to make it a nicer route, go around it. Hopefully they read between the lines, okay? Well, the early church, what was the early church like? It was not a place where conflict didn't exist, all right? I mean, I could list a few biblical examples. For example, the Jews, they didn't get along with the Greeks. Remember when we were studying Romans a couple years ago, the Jews and the Greek had a lot of conflict because of church leadership. Who should be in leadership, the Jews or the Greeks? And they fought each other over that. And Paul had to teach them, had to intervene, right? 2, Paul himself had a conflict with Barnabas over the issue of whether they should take Luke on the journey with them. And they had such a sharp conflict that their partnership ended and they went their own separate ways. Or when 2 influential women in the Bible, Euodia and Syntyche, these 2 ladies had conflict. They were bickering at each other for some reason. And the news spread so far that Paul heard about it in another city and had to write a letter and kind of intervene ladies, can you guys get along? Can you guys resolve your issues with one another and just be one-minded in this situation? Okay? So even in the Bible, there's a lot of conflicts, but God is giving us ways to deal with it, to resolve it. So Jesus is saying, go to that person directly. Okay? No third parties involved. Try this first. This is the first step. Okay? The thing is, conflict is unavoidable. Happened in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, in our lives, and also in the future. Okay? Conflict is going to happen, sadly, until the day we die. For some families, the grandpa is on his deathbed, and the children are bickering about who should get the inheritance. And it's like, oh, come on. I'm almost gone, and you guys are still fighting. Conflict is inevitable, but resentment is optional. How we choose to to feel about the conflict, that is optional. Okay? So the litmus test, the test of our spirituality, is not the absence of conflict. The test of spirituality is how we handle that conflict. Okay? All right, step number 5. Jesus says, use sensitivity. Do it in private. When you have a conflict, you go and talk to that person in private. Okay? Go to him directly and talk in private. Because if you don't do it in private and you do it in front of other people and you point out their faults in front of other people, what happens? You bring shame to them. You embarrass them. Right? And you don't want to embarrass somebody in front of other people so that they're forced to give you an answer. All right? That's not a good situation. All right? We approach, like, if you wrong somebody and they come to you, would you want them to confront you in a big group? No, that's super embarrassing. That's super shameful. All right, so we want to approach that person the way we want to be approached. Okay, and that's the golden rule. The golden rule, the simplest guideline is to approach the other people the way you would want to be approached in their place. Do unto them what you would want them to do to you. And if it's resolving conflict, to do it with kindness, to do it with compassion, to speak the truth in love. That's the way that Jesus did. Number 6, direct communication. Show him his fault. All right, show him his fault. And often this is easier said than done. Very often when we actually talk to the person, we want to soften things up, right? We don't want to say things directly, like just kind of bring it down like a notch, bring it down 50%, bring it down 70%. Okay. Well, one way, and this is a good way to confront someone. It's called a praise sandwich. How many of you actually have heard that, the praise sandwich? When you want to confront somebody with something hard, praise them first. Tell them what they're doing right first. Okay? And then tell them what they're doing wrong, what the offense was, but sandwich it with another praise. But you know what? I believe in you. I know you can resolve this. I know you can be better. So let's just, stay in touch. It's going to be okay. And in that way, like the middle part is the hard part, right? That's like the patty. But on both sides, there's the buns. Like, just to make it a nice praise sandwich so that the other person, it's easier to swallow what you're telling them. Okay? So just be direct. That's what Jesus is saying. And then step number 7 is to aim at reconciliation. Jesus says, if he listens to you, you have won your brother over. The whole point of confronting someone, the whole point of direct communication, the whole point of pointing out their offense is for reconciliation. It's not just to make yourself feel good by just dumping everything on them, right? And say, I'm letting you have it, and then just walk off. Well, that's not aimed at reconciliation. But Jesus' aim always is at making peace. Let that be the end goal. Okay. So as we learn about this, how can you apply it to your life? How is God speaking to you right now? Is there a person in your heart that you need to reconcile with? Perhaps you have wronged them and you need to ask for forgiveness. Or perhaps they have offended you and you need to go and talk to them about it in some way.